In Pit Lane, proudly brought to you by Online Invent, websites, digital marketing and custom software.
Yes, hello everybody and welcome to another edition of In Pit Lane here on Channel 31 Melbourne and of course on the In Pit Lane YouTube channel on CTV Plus and wherever you get fine televisual product, any good butcher store or jeweller store as well. Now coming up on the program this week, we mentioned a couple of weeks ago and in fact over the past couple of weeks on the show, Formula Ford has featured quite heavily both at the Phillip Island Historics and in the first program when we spoke about the revitalisation and the rebirth of Formula Ford in this country. Well, joining us tonight is the man who's currently lying in fourth position in the Australian Formula Ford Series, and after a great weekend at Sandown a few weekends ago, he is Jordyn Sinni, and he'll be joining us a little bit later on in the program. Also, we've got music coming up, live music, a little bit later on in the program too, so stay tuned for that. And of course, as per usual, alongside me is my colleague in crime, Mr. Craig Doc Gladigo, and Doc, welcome. You're a happy man this week, aren't you?
Hello, Brett. I am an absolute rap man. The baggers are up about. But one more wrapped about on a serious note is, though, we've Formula Fords are happening left, right and centre. We've got the S5000s, all guns blazing at the moment lately, and the big guns are coming to Australia very soon. Things are starting to get a little silly.
And speaking of the big guns, they were in action on the weekend, and, well, they're in action every weekend. Let's find out about what has been happening around the world of local and international motorsport. This is the In Pit Lane Motorsport News. Max Verstappen has struck back early in the early season battle for supremacy in Formula One with a thrilling win over series leader Charles Leclerc in last Sunday's sports-washing Grand Prix somewhere in the Middle East. Verstappen used DRS and the straight-line speed advantage of his Red Bull to take the lead from Leclerc with 3 laps to go. The Ferrari took the race lead from pole sitter Sergio Perez, who pitted right before a virtual safety car which gave Leclerc and Verstappen the advantage. Carlos Sainz also passed Perez to take the final step on the podium. Mercedes had another tough race, with George Russell's 5th place salvaging some pride as Lewis Hamilton could only muster a 10th place finish. McLaren's woes also continued. While Lando Norris managed a 7th place behind Esteban Ocon, Daniel Ricciardo failed to finish after his McLaren lost drive early in the race. The Formula One circus now has 2 weeks to make their way down under as the Australian Grand Prix returns to Albert Park on April 7th to the 10th. Shane van Gisbergen strengthened his lead in this year's Supercars Championship after taking 3 straight wins at Tasmania's Symmons Plains Raceway. The New Zealand driver took home a maximum haul of points for the weekend to stretch his lead in the series to 69 points.
The car's been really good all weekend and Brock's been up here as well, and yeah, just can't thank the guys enough, and each race we had to work for it. Some more good passes there, and I hope it was good to watch, and yeah, I'm pumped.
Dick Johnson Racing was the best of the rest, with Will Davison beating his teammate Anton Di Pasquale for the final 2 podium places of the weekend. The teams will now have 2 weeks to try and figure out just how to beat Van Gisbergen at the next round at Albert Park as part of the Australian Grand Prix. Well, another thrilling NASCAR finish, this time though on the road circuit at the Circuit of the Americas, as Ross Chastain muscled his way back into the lead on the final lap to take the win. Chastain had led most laps in the race, but it looked like road race specialist AJ Allmendinger would take the win with 1 lap remaining. But Allmendinger and Alex Bowman came to grief on the final lap, letting Chastain back in front to take his first ever NASCAR Cup victory. Bowman recovered to take 2nd place ahead of Chris Bell. Well, planning continues for the 2022 Bathurst 12 Hours to be held over the weekend of the 13th to the 15th of May. The 2022 event will be somewhat different, with the announcement now that former V8 supercars and other invited cars can compete in order to make up the numbers. It's been a major challenge to revive the event after COVID, and Intercontinental GT Championship boss SRO Stefan Rattel says the event almost lost its place on the global series calendar.
Unfortunately, it had to be cancelled. This year it had to be postponed, and it was rescheduled with what is the middle of the European season, and a clash with our Fanatic World Challenge event in Europe. So it made it very difficult. At some point we were wondering, can we keep it as part of the Intercontinental GT when many manufacturers couldn't enter their pro cars because of the clash and others. So we took this halfway decision to say, okay, we leave it part of Intercontinental, but only with Pro-Am as the leading class. The idea now is to restore it to, already it's back to its normal date in 2023, and with probably restore with a normal full pro category, and we hope that we will have more manufacturers joining. They were, in 2019 we had 9 manufacturers, which was an absolute record that made it a very high level competition, and I don't know if we'll return to 9, but I think we should have manufacturer support, and we want to restore the full calendar that we had of the 5 events on 5 continents.
To check out the full interview with Stefan Rattel, visit the In Pit Lane YouTube channel. Well, with the cost of race-ready GT3 and GT4 cars spiralling out of control, there's been a huge growth in the market for ready-made track day specials. The latest entrant into the Australian market is this stunning Le Mans-inspired device, the Praga R1.
Well, the Praga is a Czechoslovakian-made high downforce racing car, and it's a purpose-built racing car. The main benefits and attributes of the car are incredibly lightweight comparative to other cars, high power to weight ratio, significant downforce, and hence the capacity to pull significant Gs of lateral Gs through corners. So it's a proper race car that's built to race. The capabilities of this car against the much more expensive GT3 cars, your Porsche Cup cars, and I don't say this lightly, GT4s are a couple of steps under in terms of capability and performance. I would put this on the grid against a GT3 car and a Cup car any and all day long.
And that's the In Pit Lane Motorsport News for the week commencing Tuesday, the 29th of March 2022. More news next week. Grand Prix week. Hooray! You're watching In Pit Lane here on Channel 31 Melbourne, and of course on the In Pit Lane YouTube channel on demand right across Australia and right across the globe. When we come back, we'll be joined by our very special guest, Formula Ford racer Jordyn Sinni. Don't go away, we'll be right back. They nailed it.
Absolutely nailed that one.
Nailed it beautifully.
Not a beat missed then.
Not a beat missed. Okay, well we will bring Jordyn into his position if we could. So come across, Jordyn, and jump on your stool there. I think you're all sort of mic'd up
anyone
already.
Wants to be a Jordyn, but they're gonna have a few tats, so
we will check on that. Speaking of statistics, this is the time of the program where we talk about our friends at Online Invent, who are sponsors of the program and have been responsible for keeping us back and putting us back on the air this week and this season. And I should just say, I was talking to Doc. If you tuned in earlier, I think on the Facebook page. You would have seen me talking about the fact that Online Invent have been doing some SEO services, some web marketing for us on their Facebook page, on our Facebook page, to show us, exactly what they do, because we had clearly no idea. As I said there, I looked at the figures this afternoon, and in the last couple of weeks, our numbers in terms of our likes and our sort of interactions are up 404%.
Bazinga.
400, ridiculous.
400%.
So clearly...
just over 404%, I think you told me.
Yes, 404. So look, I think that sort of answers the question.
Someone's watching.
not only are people watching, but I mean, obviously Online Invent know how to target those people, to get people to your Facebook page, to your website, to your live stream. So if you've got a race team or an event, you're a part of a club and you want to get new members to your club, you want to promote your sponsors or anything like that, and you want to do that online, talk to the people at Online Invent, because Roy is mad keen motorsport fan.
Yep.
He's been at Phillip Island. He's lots of footage.
He's at events that we don't even know he's at sometimes, and we run into him. So he's incognito.
He sends us great footage as well that he films out there.
Hit Roy up.
Yeah, so hit Roy up at Online Invent and tell him you saw it on In Pit Lane, and he'll be absolutely bloody astounded. But apart from that, he'll do a really great job for you. So once again, we say thank you to Roy and Online Invent for all their support of In Pit Lane and for Channel 31 and RMI TV Student Television. Welcome back to In Pit Lane. Well, as we said just recently on the program, and as we've seen, for the past 3 weeks, we've had sort of some contribution from Formula Ford. We spoke to the Formula Ford people from Sandown about the revival of Formula Ford and the fact that it really, has grown again. It's been accepted by Motorsport Australia. We looked at the historic Formula Fords down at Phillip Island, and Barry Rogers on the program last week was talking about, he still believes that in terms of, the road to the future in Formula, in S5000, TCR, Trans Am, etc., the stepping stone is still Formula Ford. Our guest tonight is currently lying 4th in the National Series, had a great weekend at Sandown, had a mixed weekend just recently at Phillip Island as well. Let's find out about his year so far and his plans for the future. He is Jordyn Sinni. Jordyn, welcome to In Pit Lane.
Thank you, guys. It's a pleasure being here.
Now let's talk about the year so far. The opening round at Sandown. It was a really good weekend, but you didn't come away with all the points you thought you were probably entitled to. Tell us what happened.
It was a pretty good weekend at Sandown. Unfortunately, the first race got cancelled after we got the win there, but because it got cancelled, we didn't get any points for that. So, but we ended up winning race 2, which was pretty good, and then race 3 we finished second. So bagged quite a bit of points that weekend.
And I suppose the fact that you didn't get those points in the first race, because as I said, I was looking at your points today, and I was really surprised that you had in fact dropped back to 4th. Because I thought, well, after that really good round, you would still be up a bit higher. Phillip Island just recently, as I said to you, I was only out on the Saturday. Saw the first race on Saturday. It was one of the best races, one of the wildest races that I've ever seen. Yet at the same time, there was no major incidents. There were no red flags or anything. I don't think there was even a yellow in the whole thing. Tell us about racing Formula Fords at Phillip Island in that sort of really tight conditions.
Like you said, it was definitely wild, but no, it was good to do all clean laps, no safety cars, no red flags. Where Phillip Island is unfortunately like that sometimes with the close racing you get there. But no, it was good with all the close racing there.
How important is the slipstreaming down the straight there in the Formula Fords?
Yeah, very important. Like you have to get off that last corner almost spot on to make a pass into turn 1. So it's a good track to learn car positioning and passing.
And we saw that because you wouldn't have heard it, of course, but the track commentators were saying at the time, they said at one stage, Jordyn Sinni has dropped back, and then they said, hang on, Jordyn Sinni's back up to second again. And it was literally in the space of a lap that you obviously got timed correctly. How sort of nerve-wracking is it? I mean, I saw you at the end of that race, and yes, it was hot, but it wasn't a really long race. But you were pretty wrung out after. I mean, how much nervous energy and all that do you expend in a race like that when it is so tight and so fast?
Yeah, I mean heaps. Like with obviously the close racing, the adrenaline's always pumping. So at Phillip Island with the close racing, like I said, the adrenaline's very high, and got to be always switched on.
And you'd be hydrating as well too, and watching a diet for the day as well though too. Otherwise, you don't want to get any fatigue throughout the day. Especially, how many laps you're running? About 10, 15 laps sometimes.
Yeah, it's anywhere between 8 and 12, I think. But in hot weather, it's still very hard, and it's got to keep the fluids up and eat well and look after yourself. Really.
So you've been racing Formula Fords for about 5 years. I think I remember looking at some footage from in the past as well though too, and bits and pieces, or Hyundai's thrown in, etc. Your best season up until this year was back in 2017. I think in about 6 races you had 3 podiums. what have you been able to do this year that you'd be able to emulate from back in 2017? You'd be able to get that grasp on those top steps again.
So really, that's 5 years of racing in total. That was 3 years, I think, or 2 or 3 years in Hyundai XLs.
But you had a little bit of a, like, you know, weren't sort of up there and about, etc. like that. What have you been able to do? Is it mentally you've had focus, or what have you done differently to get that emulate that you did in 2017?
I think just seat time, and obviously during COVID, putting in the hard work as well off the track. And then once we opened all up again, I think just, like I said, seat time definitely helped us, and it showed at Sandown, I think.
During COVID, I mean, a lot of drivers that we spoke to at home, talked about, the time they were putting in on simulators, both high-end simulators and even just sort of, PlayStation games and that sort of thing. Did you do a lot of that sort of thing?
We started off with just a simple PlayStation 4, but we obviously had to go off a bit and end up, making a proper sim hooked up to the computer, and joined, I think, it's iRacing that they use these days, and did a couple of the local races on that, and yeah.
A couple of the guys you raced against that you want to race it right toe-to-toe one day out the track, is there? A few guys that you had a bit of fun with? Yeah, I mean, it was good. Like, they actually made online series, so there was a series that Formula Ford actually made up, and that was in a Formula 3 car online, and then there was I think there was an XL series, there was a TCR series, like there was heaps, so it was good to race against people you race in real life.
It's funny, I mean, when that happened, I mean, a lot of people who were like really heavily into sims and all the rest of it were saying, this is the start of it. This is the great leap forward for sim racing, and this is the path. And then as soon as we're able to get back onto a real track, it's sort of died down a little bit, didn't it?
Yeah, well, I think that was always going to happen. Like, with no one really doing much inside their house, like the closest thing to racing was online. So. But then obviously as soon as it opened back up, it was, it sort of dropped off a little bit.
No matter how good the technology is, it's not as good as the real thing, though.
No, not
Let's
at all.
get to the track.
No, not at all.
Exactly.
Not at all.
So when you're competing in the national series, but are you also doing the Victorian series? Because the opening race at Sandown was at the Victorian State series, but you also raced last weekend at Winton in the Victorian State Series. Yeah. So you're going to do the whole of the State Series as well?
That's the plan, just as seat time. Like, obviously the main goal is nationals, but we'll keep doing the State Series just for good seat time, and it's just good to be back in the car all the time, and just learning new setups and stuff like that.
So what tracks are you going to that perhaps you haven't? Have you raced at all of the tracks on the National Series, or are the tracks that you're looking forward to going to for the first time?
No, like, I've only just raced at the Victorian tracks. So I think we go to Eastern Creek, the Bend, and Morgan Park, which is a bit of a change. But I'm definitely looking forward to those 3 tracks, especially Morgan Park. Like, I've just always loved racing in Queensland, even in go-karts. So definitely looking forward to that one.
And I suppose we don't know at this stage what's going to happen in Adelaide either. I mean, perhaps, fingers crossed, there might Formula Ford race in Adelaide would be interesting.
It would be good. It would be good. Yeah, street circuit would be
quite
fantastic. Hey, listen, we're going to take a break right now, and when we come back, we're going to hear more from our special guest Jordyn Sinni. We're also going to hear some live music from our special guest AL. That's when In Pit Lane returns right after this break. Don't go away. We'll be right back. For those of you watching on Facebook and also on the In Pit Lane YouTube channel, we like to give you a bonus track from our musician every week.
It's a free ad
or our music, and as in we're just getting the audio sort of set up, as you can hear buzzing away in the background, which you probably shouldn't be doing, but
just plugging in the
equipment. There you go.
Oh, that's all right. Excuse our guitar.
Yeah, hello to everybody listening on headphones, and good to hear you again. Yes, and AL has been around. You can check out on her socials. We'll give you these. In fact, there they are. There, Triple J Unearthed. You can hear the song she'll be playing later. Is that's up there as well, and also she's on Instagram. Checked out her Instagram page. Also on Facebook, you can see as well, and the YouTube. A couple of the songs.
All the big ones covered there.
Yeah, a couple of the songs on YouTube as well. This Country, That Creek, which will be playing for us a little bit later on, and also another song, Rolling in the Deep, is on YouTube as well. But right now, she's going to be playing our bonus song here on In Pit Lane tonight. This is AL and I Am My Own Hero.
was a kid, I was told what a hero was, what they could be and maybe what they looked like too. Maybe a man in a cape or a lady in a bookstore. Then when I was 15, I learned that it could be maybe mum or dad or someone I admired and looked up to. Then when I turned 31 and I walked out the door, I finally realised I was worth so much more, and I became my own hero. I became my own hero. Every now and then I'd see on the TV screen a diver rescuing a kid from the water, and I'd always think of them as far removed from me. And my friends would tell me they left someone behind I was inevitably always filled with envy. And when I turned 31, it was finally my turn. My courage had grown so big, my strength that did that too, and I became my own hero. I became my own hero. I became my own hero. Didn't come out of nowhere like someone bitterly observed. I'd strengthened my whole self from all the hurt I didn't deserve. I drank all of the Kool-Aid for far too long, and it's goddamn time I moved on. When I was a kid, I was taught what a hero was, what they could be and maybe what they looked like. Maybe a man in a cape or a lady in a bookstore. And then when I was 15, I learned that it could be maybe mum or maybe dad or someone I admired and looked up to. And then when I turned 31 and I walked out the door, I finally realised I was worth so much more, and I became my own hero. I became my own hero. I became my own hero.
AL and I Am My Own Hero, and AL will join us a little bit later on in the program to play us out with her song This Country, That Creek. Thank you for that. I should let you know that, Anna only put her name to this morning. I woke up thankfully at about 5 o'clock in the morning, and there was a message saying, "Hey, I can come in," because we couldn't get in, and it was like, oh, the one, and I listened and I went, yes, good, thank you, wonderful, thank you. So
what a lovely thing to wake up to
yes,
at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yes. So that was my first. That was my first introduction to AL was at 5 o'clock in the morning, and as you know, I am not a morning person.
No, but you're not. So I'm glad it was good news.
It was. So I was very, very happy that it
just
was.
Just lucky for the rest of the world.
So thank you for that. So if you hang around, we'll go there and we'll see you out. Anna will play us out for the Channel 31 program. Now I will just remind you, if you're watching on Facebook and also on the Input Lane YouTube channel, to join us every week Thursday nights at 9 o'clock on those particular platforms for Full Course Yellow. It's our weekly get together where Doc, myself, Pete, Stuart, Richard, a whole bunch of people, Dave Stillwell, a whole bunch of people, and we all get together when we can, and we talk about the week in motorsport.
When, and you know what? I don't know how we fit it all. I think we're going overtime at the moment because there's so much on. There is for this week. I mean, when you have, I honestly, if you watch the news tonight from the show for this week's news, there was just no way I could fit in everything. So I literally had to drop Sebring. I had to drop both races at Sebring. Thankfully, there was no NHRA for the weekend. But you dropped Sebring?
Yeah, dropped Sebring.
This is why we watched it.
We had Formula One. We had we had all the stuff that happened at Phillip Island. We had MotoGP, which we covered. So We've got a lot to talk about this coming Thursday night. We'll go right through. Pete and everyone will talk about Formula One because there was so much Ferrari winning.
We'll need a big full course yellow.
Yes, and of course, the MotoGP. I'm sure you'll be talking plenty about that. So that's this Thursday night at 9 o'clock.
Don't get me started.
They're ready when you are.
Okay, and they're ready when. Well, then, if they are ready, I am ready. Are you ready? Oh, hang on a second. Someone isn't ready. Ready?
9,
Okay.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
Welcome back to In Pit Lane. Our guest this week is Jordyn Sinni, and joining us a little bit later on in the program to play us out with some live music will be AL. That's a little bit later on in the program. But Jordyn, we spoke about sort of what you've been doing this year in the world of Formula Ford. What are the long-term plans?
Obviously, supercars is the main goal, but just got to try and find the budget at the moment and sponsorship to give us a helping hand, really.
Because that was one of the things we spoke about with Barry Rogers last week, was that that pathway, and and Barry made sort of a bit of quite a bit of airtime in other places as a result of that, where he was talking about the pathway into supercars. And where things like TCR, Trans Am, and in particular S5000 sat. I mean, you were at Phillip Island recently. You saw those categories in action. You heard the S5000s. I mean, did that sort of whet your appetite for you to get involved in something like that, perhaps?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I was lucky enough to able to drive a S5000 a couple of years ago, and it definitely grabs your attention. It's definitely something to look into in the next couple of years and see where that takes us.
I like to bring up a few fun facts every now and again. This one's more fun with flags. Yeah. I was having a look at a YouTube video just recently, and you were in some very fine company.
Are you sure
going
it was
back.
YouTube?
Yes, it was definitely YouTube. That's where In Pit Lane is. There, behave. Fun with flag, because sometimes you can get flagged out in this sort of particular event. Back in 2019. Does this remind you? Cooper Webster, Jordan Caruso, yourself might have been carting around somewhere on the Oz carts, banging a bit?
Yeah, I do remember that. That was the indoor carts, good 3 years ago now. I'm pretty good.
We've had an interrupt a couple of years though.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty good mates with Cooper and Jordan, and that was just our hobby really, just fang around in the little indoor go-karts in the city and have a bit of fun crashing doors.
Well, I was going to say more. That was an hour's footage. I was going to say, Cooper, and you guys were absolutely flinging it left, right, and centre, having a bit of fun. So obviously, being mates with those two guys, have you had a chat to Jordan and maybe look? He's gone down the path of the sports sedans, and he's was like winning. He's winning left, right, and centre in that as well though too. Cooper's moved on as well though too. Is it something you might sort of follow in their path?
Yeah, of course. I mean, he's more looking into the GT3 sort of type and the Audis and in the sports sedans, and obviously Cooper's going the open wheeler S5000. I'm not really sure what their own goal is, but I'm sure it's probably just the same as mine. And it's definitely good being mates with them, because then I get a good pathway on what to go do next. And
keep in touch with them. You guys will have to get out in the karts and invite Brett and I along for the next session when you get out together. We'll have
Don't invite me along. I mean, I can barely hop into my cart.
We're getting you into a cart. We're going to strap you in.
You'd have to strap me, and then you have to cut the cart to
email the show at In Pit Lane to get Brett in the cart.
Yeah. No, I did that once, and I won't be doing that again. The back's bad enough as it is. Listen, just quickly for the rest of the year, I mean, Formula Ford is an entry level. We know that, but there's no such thing as really cheap motor racing. How difficult? I mean, basically, where does the money come from?
I'd say Dad. He puts in a lot of hard effort throughout the week, and just sponsorship through family and friends, and luckily enough, I've got quite a few sponsors that have been on board for a while and help tip in, and that's how we got here really.
We'll have to catch up with you down the track, because I usually ask these guys of a few people that come on the show as well though too. You've got 3 more circuits to go up north when you compete in the National Series. Your favourite track down here in Victoria that you've raced at so far?
Sandyoun's definitely up there, just because you can't, in open wheel you can't test there as much, so it's really rock up to the track and race. So definitely Sandyoun's probably my main one.
That's really interesting. I think of all the guests we've had, you're probably one of the only people that have said Sandown, which I really like, because the thing is, as we saw in your race, it is a real challenge. You don't have nice big wide runoff areas. You don't have that luxury. You've got to be. It's more like a street circuit, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. I mean, obviously it's quite scary at the same time going up the back straight with walls right next to you, unlike Phillip Island and Winton. But
you like the closed circuit type stuff?
Yeah, just I don't know, it just feels cool, really.
Oh, it would be the well. You obviously you said the adrenaline's always pumping, so it'd be off its dial as well, though. Too there. We'll vote you in. Jordyn Sinni for mayor of Dandenong, so we can save Sandown down the track.
Save Sandown.
That might be your
Hey,
role.
listen, good luck for the rest of the year. It was a good start, and but obviously there's a long way to go. Keep in touch. We'll be reporting on your progress throughout the year. But for now, Jordyn Sinni, thanks for joining us in Pit Lane.
No worries, thanks guys.
Right now, to play us out tonight is our musical guest, AL, and you can see her in all sorts of places. Her social media is everywhere. She's on Triple J's Unearthed. She's absolutely everywhere, but right now she's going to play us out with her song, This Country, That Creek. Ladies and gentlemen, until we see you next week, good night, and this is AL, This Country, That Creek. Good night.
The sun, it's glass like reflection, welcoming everyone, and it's a little bit sad to know it was home to so many for so long. It's bringing me a peace I used to know. It's bringing me a peace I used to know. Well, I like to think it was thanked 1,000 years ago by the people who owned it and called it their home. Probably was more overgrown with birds and animals, and it was a sacred land, so it's kind of nice to know. It's bringing me a peace I used to know. It's bringing me a peace I used to know. Well, kind of really sorry that I didn't know more before. I didn't even know that there was a war and there's so much to understand about this land. So I'm kind of really glad that it's bringing me a peace I used to know. In that red dirt center of this beautiful land where I grew up and I lay on the sand in the dry riverbed is where we'd camp, and you look out at the stars and you'd know you were home. Oh yeah, you look out at the line and you'd know you were home. I knew I was home. I knew I was home. With its deep red floor and bright blue sky and green spin effects and yellow cacti and purple and orange by the roadside and the deep, deep black of the tar, the deep, deep black of the tar. Oh, you're looking at the land and you know you were